This is American Dreams, a program where we interview thought leaders and entrepreneurs and bring their ideas to you in real-world context. Welcome to today's show. I'm visiting here today with Curtis Estes. Curtis, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Alan. My pleasure.
So, Curtis, give us a little background on your path in life and how you got to where you are today.
I had the distinct pleasure of growing up on a pig farm in Atchison, Kansas. Literally, it's a town of 10,000 people. We raised pigs, sold them at the county fair. It was a fairly idyllic upbringing until Christmas Day when I was 11 years old and our house burned down to the ground. We lost everything. We got our clothes from the Salvation Army, our blankets and towels from friends at church, and kind of changed the direction of our life. My parents had done very little proper planning. They had no fire insurance, so we moved into a trailer house. And there was a time when my mom and sister and I all worked at McDonald's to bring in extra money. But through that all, I realized that even though things were tough at the moment, I could dream about a bigger future. And I kept those dreams going, and that's what helped me get out of a very tough time as a little kid and here to Los Angeles.
All right, so you're stating this very simply because you became one of the most connected people in Bel Air, California. All right, so I want to get into your head a little bit about your mindset and your networking ability and how that all came to be.
Yeah, so I was at the University of Kansas, and I realized that while I enjoyed school, what I loved most was campaigning. I loved campaigning for student government. So I was on student government all 4 years at KU, and that's when I realized that my passion was meeting, befriending, and connecting people. And so when I was graduating from KU, I knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And at an entrepreneurs conference, I met one of the head folks from one of the top financial institutions in the area. And I said, I'd really love to go into financial planning, but I have no money. Could I do it with you? And he said, yes. And I said, I'd spent last summer in Los Angeles with some guys from LA. Could I do it in LA? And he said, yes. So literally I moved from Atchison, Kansas to Los Angeles 7 days after graduating from KU. And that's what opened my eyes to a world of massive possibilities that over the last 30 years have kind of become dreams come true.
Amazing. So now you've written 3 books covering a wide range of topics. Let's go into each of these books and talk about topics covered.
Yeah. Well, the first book is kind of my story. It's entitled Your Life by Design, a step-by-step guide to creating a bigger future. And it's exactly the tools that I used many times throughout my life, really without knowing what I was doing in the early days. But as I got clear on how it was that I could create a bigger vision for my future, I would share that with my clients, and they'd say, oh, I'd really like to do more about that. I'd like to learn more about that. And so it ended up turning into a book. And so every chapter concludes with exercises. The first section is all about getting clear on your bigger vision for your future. The second section is how do you come up with a strategic plan to make it happen. The third section is executing on the plan. And the fourth section is all about leading your life by design. So that's the first book, and it really has helped me to keep growing. And my thesis in that book is, with a big enough why, how doesn't matter. And so it's really fun to be able to help people think through those topics for themselves and to create even bigger futures for themselves. The second book is entitled Family First, How to Be a Hero at Home. And I call that book my confessional, because while I was saying family was first and I thought I was putting family first, I realized that I wasn't. And I knew I needed to do a better job at that. And so for 2 years, I worked with a therapist on identifying all the things that I wanted to do better. And so that book is a story of a guy trying to be a better husband and a better father, and my ongoing efforts to fulfill that. And then the third book came out just recently. It's called Smart Money, 8 Strategies for Financial Security, Success, and Significance. And it's really all about what I've learned from 30 years working with some of the most successful folks in Los Angeles and how we can help them to be smarter. And what we find is that, people don't know what they don't know. And in today's environment, with all the changes in Washington and in the economy, it's important that you know the things that are going to make a massive difference in your lives. And while some people may be really, really good in what they do, there's other really important areas that they just aren't aware of. And so I've distilled the 8 mindsets that I've seen over the last 30 years that have helped people be most successful in their financial security, leading their life by design. And the real fun conversation that we have with folks is how do they pass on not only their wealth, but also their values. And what's been really interesting for me is to sit down with extraordinarily wealthy folks, and their biggest fear is that their money's going to ruin their kids. And that's a tragedy. And so we want to come alongside our clients and help them understand that these are the mindsets that the most successful families have been able to use to pass on both their wealth and their values. So those are the 3 books, and hopefully there's another book or 2 in there for the future.
I love it, and being able to pass on your life experience, both good and bad, the adversity. As we learn, we pass it along and tell what we learn. That you made a comment there that I want to jump into about so often in the area of wealth planning, people will say, okay, I got to give money to my kids. But then the parents say, I don't want my children's life to be ruined. Can you expand on that a little bit more, on how you approach that, and what specifically does that resonate with you when you talk about them not wanting to ruin their kid's life?
Well, I think for so many of us as parents, like, our kids are so precious and we want to do everything for them, but we don't want to do so much for them that it handicaps them. And so I think the conversation is all around how do we pass on those lessons that we've learned, often the hard way, to our kids who've had it far easier. And so there's many specific strategies that we share with our clients for teaching them how to learn those experiences without necessarily having to do it the hard way. A great example of that is what we call pre-inheritance experiences. And so we love to come alongside our clients, find out, what areas of philanthropy that they're interested in, and see if their kids are interested in that. And maybe they are. And if they aren't, we find areas of philanthropy that the kids would be interested in. And so we'll literally set up a family foundation of sorts where the kids are responsible for deciding where the money goes, having them present to the parents, this is why I think this would be a good investment of our resources, and then actually have the kids get involved with those charities. And it's something that the parents and the kids can do together. But that's an example of a pre-inheritance experience that really teaches values in a way that engages the parents with the kids in something that's really fulfilling and meaningful, and also steers the kids in the right direction.
I know you work with some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the Los Angeles area. What are they most concerned about these days?
Probably the biggest thing these days is taxes, and giving the looming changes and the proposals coming from Washington. There's good reason to be afraid of that. Thankfully, there's some really powerful strategies that we have to mitigate those taxes. But I think beyond that, what we're seeing is really just a concern for America and the direction that America is going. And so we've created some groups of folks here in Los Angeles where we're bringing together people who treasure America, our freedoms, where we've come from and where we're going. And it's been really exciting to give people hope about the direction that we're going. And I think there's cause for real hope, but we have to do it from a perspective of working together, collaborating, and together I think that we can take this amazing opportunity that we've been given here in 2021 and make it even better in the future for our kids and grandkids.
I know you're very disciplined, Curtis, and tell me about some of the 30 metrics that you track every day. Wow.
So I'm inspired by Dan Sullivan, who is very focused on longevity. And early on, he shared some of his strategies for being healthy and living long. And so I started to track some of those metrics. What are the things that seem to make a difference about living a long, healthy life? And one of the books that inspired me was The Miracle Morning, and it talks about the lifesavers and the importance of starting every day with silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And so those were the 6 that I started with. And I actually was introduced to them at a strategic coach class. So the night before strategic coach, we were having dinner with some buddies, and they shared, and I thought, I'm going to start that tomorrow. And so literally for 3,317 mornings as of this morning, we've been tracking those 6 lifesavers. But what's happened is we've just added to them over time. And so as I think of other breakthroughs that I'd like to test, I put it in my monthly tracking log. And so every morning I have half a dozen things that I track. And then at the end of the day, I say, okay, well, what else was I able to do? Was I able to, inspire my kids by sharing a life lesson? Some very practical things. Was I able to get, more introductions to prospective clients? So we literally track all these different things, and it's made a huge difference in terms of just being very intentional about where I am and where I'm going. And it's very motivating to start every day with a real clear focus and vision for what's possible.
Tell me about the Citrus Club and your vision for inspiring others to make their communities the best that they can possibly be.
Yeah, so that's what I was alluding to earlier. We found that there, in every city, and certainly here in Los Angeles, are a group of people that love their hometown. And so we decided, well, let's bring them together. And so we launched the Citrus Club. So it's a gorgeous building right in Hollywood on the corner of Melrose and Citrus, hence the name. But we have a rooftop wine garden. And so pre-COVID, we were doing a bunch of events, and thankfully we're restarting to do those events. But we bring together the most passionate Angelinos who are committed to making Los Angeles the best city on the planet. So we bring in thought leaders and doers. And what's different about our organization is that you can't just join by writing a check. You have to make a commitment to visible, measurable progress for the benefit of Los Angeles in order to join our organization. And then in order to retain your membership, you have to follow through on what you said you were going to do. So we found that this combination of vision and accountability really attracts a wonderful community of people. So we're excited to see where we can take this. And what we really want to do is inspire our friends in other cities around the country and around the world to launch their own citrus clubs to help make their own city the best city on the planet. And together, that rising tide will raise all ships.
How did you get the name Citrus?
It's literally on the corner of Melrose and Citrus. And
Okay.
so, yeah, it wasn't terribly original, but it works. And I love orange juice.
All right. Well, following Dan Sullivan, you want to live until the year 2100. Okay. Why is that important to you?
Well, I think that every day is a blessing. And I am so grateful for everything that I have. And I really want to make sure that I'm making the most of my life. And if I'm able to be a productive citizen, why not be a productive citizen for as long as possible? So Dan's goal is to live to the year 2100 so he can live a complete century. And I thought, well, that'd be pretty awesome too. So my goal is to live to be 132 years old, God willing. And really some of the impact that I would hope to have is a big part of that motivation. As a kid growing up poor, the only way I was able to go to college was because of scholarships. And that made all the difference in the world. And so for me, I love raising money for education. And so my dream, my big, hairy, audacious goal in life is to help raise $1 trillion for education. So we've got a long way to go. But if there's anything I'm going to spend the next 80 years working on, that's a good one.
If a person, Curtis, wants to come back and say, hey, Curtis, I think I'm a person that qualifies to be in the Citrus Club. I care about my community. I care about life. I'll make a commitment. How would they go ahead and reach out? Who do they reach out to?
Reach out to me. I'd love to begin a dialogue with anybody who cares about any of these topics that we've discussed. Email me directly, curtis.estes@gmail.com. And maybe we can put that in the show notes. And frankly, for anyone who cares to listen to this, I'd love to get you a free e-version of any or all three of my books. So maybe we can include that in the show notes too. But my goal, like you, Alan, is to give back in every way that we can. You're leading the way, and I'm glad to be part of your community.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being here today with us and for sharing. Been visiting here today with Curtis Estes. And Curtis, we look forward to visiting in the future.
Thank you, my friend. Blessings.